Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda, and in this important training video, I'm going to answer the question, is the second round of stimulus checks dead and how that might change? I'll cover three things in this training video. The first is the bitter political divide and the gridlock that exists between the House and the Senate right now. The second, I'm going to discuss some interesting rumblings from Battleground States and what people are starting to say and what's actually happening at the grassroots level. And number three, I'll talk about what this means to you. Before I get started, I would really appreciate it if you stimulate the like button, and if you click the subscribe button and enable notifications, you'll get an instant update about important breaking news like this right within YouTube. So I really appreciate that, and I'll get into the training video now. Now, according to an article on CNET Personal Finance, the White House and Congress could start work on a second round of stimulus checks as early as this month. Now, by the way, the words as early as sort of, I wouldn't agree with the words as early as, because they should have done it already and we shouldn't even be waiting for this, but that's a subject for a whole different training video. So the article says a second stimulus check of some form is starting to take shape. Both sides of Congress and the White House have signaled a willingness to deliberate a second round of economic stimulus payments, one that could provide another round of financial relief from the outbreak. Now, as you probably know, and I did another training video on this, the House, which is a Democratic House, passed a very ambitious $3 trillion bill called the HEROES Act, which the Republicans were not happy about because the HEROES Act included several things that the Republicans simply didn't want to agree to. Now, on the other hand, Republicans are now starting to understand that there is a need for more and more stimulus. So it's really a matter of both sides meeting in the middle and seeing eye to eye. But fundamentally, the Democrats wanted to significantly expand unemployment benefits, and the Democrats also wanted to provide stimulus checks to a much wider pool of people. They wanted significantly more funding for states, so they had their own wish list. The Republicans, on the other hand, wanted to see how the first round of stimulus checks made its way through the economy, how states reopened. They wanted to be a bit more fiscally conservative and see how the economy reopened. So both sides have their points of view. Both sides have valid points, and I'm hopeful that both sides can meet in the middle, because at the end of the day, we have a Democratic controlled House and a Republican controlled Senate. So one cannot get anything done without the other. Both have to see eye to eye. Both have to essentially meet in the middle and create a plan that can then be signed off and approved by both of them, and that can then go to the president to sign off on.
So with that, I'll sign the bill.
I personally am confident that something like that will happen. Am I absolutely 100% certain? I'm not. I mean, you can't be certain about anything in this uncertain climate that we live in. But I feel confident because, again, I've talked about this in another training video, because of the global, because of the political, and because of the economic realities of the situation. The global reality of the situation is the American economy and the American consumer drives the rest of the world, because we just buy so much stuff. We are consumers, we are spenders, we don't save a whole lot of money in normal times. And I personally believe that when we recover from this, which we'll go back to our spending ways, because that's just the way we're wired. That's just the way that we are spenders, and we spend money on things, and people from all over the world sell us those things. So there's a global reality. The political reality, like I mentioned, is both sides have different points of view, and both sides need to meet in the middle. They should have done that already, but they need to meet in the middle, and I'm pretty confident they will meet in the middle, because this is an election year. One side wants to remain in the White House and the other side wants to get back into the White House. So there is a political reality where they will essentially try and do as much as possible in order to win your vote. And there is an economic reality, plain and simple. We're struggling. Many of us are on unemployment. Many of us haven't received unemployment benefits. And these stimulus checks should be coming. These stimulus checks, in fact, should be here already. So those are the reasons why I think that we will most likely see another round of stimulus checks. But now I'm going to talk about the rumblings that are actually happening in battleground states. And this is actually very interesting. So Change Research and CNBC conducted a poll of just over 3,500 individuals in early May in battleground states. This is very important. They conducted this poll in battleground states, and these battleground states were Arizona, Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Now, the margin of error of the results I'm about to share with you was plus minus 1.7%, so quite accurate. And Change Research reached all these voters via targeted online ads, and they asked people to fill out an online survey. What they found, and this is very interesting, there's very strong bipartisan support. 84% of individuals thought that there should be more regulations to ensure that the Paycheck Protection Program goes to small businesses and not to big companies like Ruth Chris's and Shake Shack. And you've probably seen that in the news where these companies got the Paycheck Protection Program money, faced a lot of public pressure, and had to return that money. There is also bipartisan support for continuing to make direct payments to qualifying individuals until this pandemic ends. So essentially, people want not just a one-time stimulus payment, but consistent direct payments, consistent monthly payments until this pandemic ends. And by the way, I believe that for those of us who need it, there should be some criteria. I believe that that should happen as well. 96% of Democrats, 74% of independents, that's a majority right there, and 53% of Republicans, which by the way is also a majority, support such a policy. 2/3 also support providing more assistance from the federal government to state and local governments. So these are pretty significant statistics from battleground states, from the ground level, data from in the trenches that I'm sure the White House is also paying attention to, because this could potentially have an impact in November. So in short, the need for stimulus checks is not just an economic reality, but it is also a political reality. In fact, I would go so far as to say that this is a political necessity. The reason I say this is because there's another very interesting statistic from this Change Research and CNBC poll, and that statistic is as follows. Over half of the voters said that it is not at all important for large corporations to receive relief. 52% of them said this. In fact, a lot of them, over half of them, said that in their view, the policies of the current administration favored the wealthy and favored large businesses. Only 21% of individuals who participated in the survey said that the policies of the current administration were favoring small businesses and middle-income families. This is very, very significant, because it is the small businesses and the middle-income individuals and the low-income individuals that make up a majority of America, that actually make up a majority of the individuals who will vote in November. So we now have a situation where satisfying the needs of wage earners is going to be politically necessary, probably for the very survival of certain elements in our government. So with that being said, the probability of a second stimulus check, in my opinion, is quite high, despite the fact that there is a disagreement between the House, and the House wants a wish list of items and the Senate wants to wait and see what happens. Despite all of these things, there has to be some mechanism, and you're watching this video training before something actually happens. When something happens, I'll be happy to report back to you and give you the specifics. But again, the cards are set up in a way that a second stimulus check should be happening. Again, I'm not a fortune teller. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict the future. I can give you my best possible opinion based on current news, based on current circumstances, and that's what I'm trying to do in this channel. I hope you learned something new in this video training. I really appreciate you watching. I try my best to make sense of these complex subjects, and I'm not in this to take sides, because like I mentioned in other training videos, for me, it's not about the red or the blue. For me, it's about the red, white and blue. For me, it's not just about livelihood, it's about balancing lives and livelihood. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope you learned something new about the upcoming second stimulus and the probability of the second stimulus. Speaking of stimulus, please click the like button. Please stimulate that like button. Please stimulate the subscribe button and also enable notifications so you get an instant update when I release future training videos. I really appreciate you being here. I'll see you in the next training video. Thank you so much.